Hello, okay, so today I'm going to be talking about how I made this really simple monochrome painting using watercolours. Now all of these white areas have been made by exposing the paper underneath, and I've used 3 different methods for doing this, which I'll talk about during the tutorial. Okay, so I actually got the ideas for this tutorial from this book, the Tate Watercolour Manual. The artwork is by a hugely talented artist called Tony Smeebert, and it's on page 56. Okay, so a quick rundown of the materials. I've got Paynes Grey paint here, that's all I'm going to use, a large brush, a steel ruler, a knife, magic tape, masking tape, 2 glasses of water, some tissue, and I've also got my paper, which is Archer's rough grain. Okay, so as I quite often do, I started out creating 2 paintings, but towards the end of the tutorial I just moved to working on 1. So I'm just going to tape my paper down. I'm actually going to tape it to the board because I'm going to use quite a lot of water, and this will help to keep it flat. Okay, so I'm just starting by applying a wash of the Paynes Grey paint to each paper, and I'm trying to keep it quite dark because I know that the paint will dry lighter. And I'm wanting a kind of stormy effect, so I'm using these sort of brush marks which are moving upwards. Okay, now I'll speed the video up and put the music up while I just finish those. Okay, so I'm working relatively quickly because I need the paint to be wet for this next stage. And I'm just going to get my tissue and literally dab the shape of a cloud into the top there. Now the effect is pretty great because it actually looks like white paint on top of the blue. It's kind of amazing. And it's just practice really. I haven't done this much myself before, and I did do a few practice ones first. You want a sort of soft edge and variation in amongst the cloud. But like I said, I mean, it is really just practice. So this method is called lifting off, and it's when you use something to lift off the paint to reveal the paper underneath. So you can lift off with a brush as well. So I've got my dry brush here, and this gives a slightly different effect, a sort of softer effect, which is why I'm using it around the outside of the cloud. Now when I do demonstrations, I do quite like doing 2 paintings at the same time, and I'm already developing a preference for the one on the right, I think, because there's more variation within the cloud. It's making it look more interesting. So I do think that by doing 2 paintings at once or more, you can learn, because you see things in the painting that maybe you really like, or things that you don't like, and that can inform the next one that you do. Okay, so I'm dabbing now with the tissue, and I'm dabbing a bit lighter so that I don't lift off quite so much paint, and I'm carrying on using the brush as well. I'm trying to soften those edges a little bit. Okay, I'm going to speed the video right up now until I get to this part where I'm using a knife, and I'm just literally scratching in some sort of rain-like marks into the wet paint there. Okay, so I'll speed this up and finish off with the music up. Okay, so these are dry now, and you can see that the paint has dried lighter, but I've got quite a strong line around the cloud. So what I'm going to do is, even though the paint is dry, I'm going to lift off some of it by wetting the paint with my brush and just carefully sort of blending that edge of that cloud. And I'm really not applying too much water to the brush, and that is just sort of lifting away some of that paint on the edge. Okay, so for the rest of the tutorial I'm just going to work on this painting. Now the next thing I'm going to do is make this line about 2/3 of the way down the paper, and I'm just going to do this by masking off a line, a very thin line, with magic tape. I'm taking quite a lot of time to make sure it's straight, and I'm also taking quite a lot of time to make sure that the tape is really well stuck down to the paper. It won't pull the paper up when you take it off. And then I'm just going to get my brush with water on, and I'm going to paint over that line and dab away the paint as it comes off. Now you don't want to get it too soaking wet because you want to avoid the water going under the magic tape, and that is the reason that you want the tape to be really well stuck down. Now in this case my line is going to fade towards the edge of the paper, but there's so many different options for creating your composition, and this is just one way of doing it. Okay, so I'm working relatively quickly because I wanted to get that magic tape up fairly soon, just in case any water has gone underneath it. Now I think that's done now, so I'm just going to carefully remove that magic tape quite slowly. I don't want to rip off any of the paper, and like I said, if there is water, I don't want that to disturb the paint. Okay, so that's done now, and the next thing that I'm going to use to reveal the paper underneath is my knife. I've got a sharp blade on my knife and I can scrape the paint away. So like I said, this is what Tony Smeebert did in the Tate watercolour manual, and I loved this method he used where he got a steel ruler and he scraped along the bottom with his knife. Okay, so that's what I'm doing here, and I'm going to use that same steel knife to make another shape in the foreground, just a line. So I'm just going to put the music up for a bit while I finish this off. Okay, so that's it, I've finished, and I'm going to take the tape off now, which is quite often the best part of doing a painting like this, and I'm going to see what it looks like. Okay, so I'll put the music up a bit and then I'll talk about the painting at the end. Okay, so here it is, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think that there's a lot of possibilities with this technique. I would really like to try something like this, but with a more of a navy blue. And I think what I would do next time is I'd probably try to make the paint even darker, because this Paynes Grey did dry quite a bit lighter. And I think, yes, that darker would also work really well, and then the drama of that cloud would really stand out from the background even more. Now this video is quite good for showing how where I scraped those lines with the knife while the paint was wet have left these dark marks which look a bit like rain or something. I think that's been quite effective. So yeah, there's lots of different techniques in this painting that I think could really be explored further. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial and that you found it useful. I've got quite a few other similar tutorials on my channel, and I really like a minimalist approach when it comes to painting, and I normally try to focus on one or two techniques within each painting to try and make them, you know, as comprehensive as possible. So please check out some of my other videos and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when my videos come out, which is normally about once a week. Okay, thank you very much, and hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.